Hello everyone, welcome to OTHM Level 6 Diploma in Business Management. Today we are going to discuss Unit 5, that is Sustainable Business Practices. So first we have first learning outcome, in which we try to understand the global sustainability agenda. We have the first assessment criteria, in which we evaluate the global sustainability agenda and how it relates to national practice. So now in this slide, we will first discuss the concept of sustainability and its importance. Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It is basically the environmental, social, and economic dimension that must be balanced for long-term viability, and it preserves the national resources, which promotes the social equity and ensures the long-term economic growth. All the nations share the responsibility to address sustainability to maintain global ecosystem and promote human well-being. The companies must integrate the sustainable practice to reduce environmental impact and ensure social responsibility. Then we have ecological footprints, which means they demand human place on Earth's ecosystem, which leads to resource depletion. Then we have global agreements, which means there are some international efforts like Paris Agreement aim to combat with climate change and promote sustainability across the borders. Now, there are some national responses to sustainability issues. For example, there are some legal frameworks in which government implement laws and regulation to enforce suitable practices. Then there are some business guidance in which there are national policies which guide business on reducing their environmental footprints. Then there are some target setting in which there are countries that set national goals aligned with global sustainability targets. Then we have second assessment criteria, in which we analyze the forces for changes in the sustainable business environment. So we have some forces for change in sustainable business environment. First we have economic, then we have social culture, and at last we have environmental implications. Now we have some economic implications. Global markets are shifting toward green economies, and there is a demand for sustainable product and service growing. And the government and international bodies introduce the financial incentives, carbon taxes, and green regulations. It pushes the businesses to adopt sustainable practices. The sustainable practices always lead to cost reduction in energy, waste, and material, which creates the competitive advantage. Now we have social culture and religious forces. First, we have social expectations, which means increasing consumer awareness and demand for ethically produced goods drive the business to adopt the sustainability. If we talk about cultural shift, then it is a societal values that increase the favor of environmental responsibility and social equity. Then we have religious perspective, which means societal values increasingly favor environmental responsibility and social equity. Now we have some environmental implications. First, we have climate change pressure, which means businesses must reduce greenhouse gas emission to combat with global warming. Then we have resource depletion, which means companies face challenges from limited natural resources, pushing for more efficient usage. Then we have biodiversity laws, which means businesses are expected to adopt practices that protect ecosystem and wildlife. Then we have global agreement, which means there are some international accords. For example, Paris Agreement mandates stricter employment, which mandate the stricter environmental compliance. Then we have environmental laws, which means there are some national regulations that force the business to minimize the waste and pollution. And at last, we have sustainable resources management, which means there are industries that are required to adopt sustainable sourcing and reduce their environmental footprint. Businesses. So there are some techniques to determine the leadership and management capacity. First, we have self-assessment tool, in which we use personality test to evaluate the leadership style. Then we have feedback from peers, in which we gather insights from colleagues and subordinates. Then we have 360-degree review, in which we collect feedback from all the level of the organization. Then we have goal alignment, in which we ensure the personal goals match with the leadership responsibilities. Then we have time management analysis, in which we evaluate how effectively time is used for the task. And at last, we have mentorship feedback, which means to seek advice from experienced leaders. So we have some social attitude to sustainability in business. For example, it increased the consumer demand for eco-friendly product. There is the pressure from stakeholder for sustainable business practices. The corporate social responsibility as competitive advantage, shift towards renewable energy in production process, and it also means that employee demand for sustainable and ethical practices, and brand reputation always tied to sustainability efforts. Now there is legal framework and impact on profitability. So first we have government regulation, which means enforcing the sustainability in business. Then the compliance cost is always associated with sustainable practices. Long-term profitability is always there through the conservation. Then there are tax incentive for companies that are adopting green practices, and we also have risk of legal penalties for non-compliance with sustainability laws. We also have balancing profitability with environmental responsibility. Now we have second learning outcome in which we understand the concept of sustainable business organization. So first we have first assessment criterion which will determine the scope of sustainable business organization. So there is a scope of sustainable business organization. For example, first we have sustainable supply chain in which we ensures the suppliers adhere to sustainability standard. Then we have circular economy which embrace the recycling, reusing and reducing waste. Then we have energy efficiency which utilize renewable energy source for operations. Then we have sustainable product design which means creating the product with minimal environmental impact. And at last we have CSR which means engaging in ethical and sustainable practices. Now we have to extend the boundaries of the enterprise. First, we have to extend the responsibility to supplier and manufacturers for sustainable sourcing. Then we will involve the local communities in sustainability efforts. Then there must be public reporting of sustainability practices to ensure the transparency. There must be partnering with the organizations like NGOs that promote sustainability. And we must engage the stakeholder in sustainability decision making processes, and we have to balance the profitability with environmental and social impact through shared value creation. Now we have some external factors that influence the sustainability. First, we have to comply with government regulations related to sustainability. We must ensure the ethical and eco-friendly practices in the supply chain. We must address the environmental concern of local communities. We must align with global sustainability framework like the UN SDGs. We must meet or exceeding the industry benchmark for sustainable standards, and we must adapt to the rising demand for sustainable product and services from the customers. So first we have the impact on business structure. It is a shift from linear to circular supply chain to reduce waste, need for new rules that focus on sustainability compliance, more collaborative models are needed with sustainable partners, structural changes in sourcing and suppliers evaluation processes, decentralization to allow local and eco-friendly decision making, and leaner operations with sustainability driven efficiency. Now we have sustainability and objectives. It is the alignment of long-term sustainability goals with profit targets, re-evaluation of consumer demand for green product or services. It is the integration of sustainability into different mission and vision statement, and it is a short-term profit that sacrifice for long-term sustainable gains. And it also includes the balancing shareholder interest with environmental considerations. And at last, it enhances the transparency in reporting sustainability efforts. Now we have learning outcome 3 in which we would be able to review sustainable strategic business planning. We have the first assessment criterion which we analyze the concept of triple bottom line and layer reali, and we will review how it is implemented in business organization. So first we have the concept of triple bottom line. It focuses on three pillars, that is people, which means ensuring positive societal impact and fair treatment of employees and communities. Then we have planet, which means reducing environmental harm and promoting sustainable practices. Then we have profit, which means maintaining financial health and long-term profitability. So it all aims for a balance between profitability and ethical responsibilities, and it drives the business to measure their impact on society and environment. Now we have managing and measuring the triple bottom line. Businesses track the social impact through community initiatives and employees' welfare. Environmental impact measured by carbon footprint, waste, and energy use. Financial performance are still measured via traditional profit metrics. And companies always face difficulty by balancing the sustainability with cost efficiency. Tools like sustainable reports help to measure and communicate triple bottom line success. Conflict often arises between maximizing profit and achieving sustainable goals. So first we have cultural change for sustainability. It is a shift from profit-driven to purpose-driven mindset. It fostered the culture of responsibility and accountability across all the levels. It encouraged the innovation for sustainability solutions. It emphasized the long-term impact over short-term gains. It aligned the employees' values with sustainability goals. It promoted the transparency and communication on sustainability efforts. Now we have the role of government, that is national and international. If we talk about national, then national regulations are there to enforce the environmental standards, and international agreements are also there to promote the global sustainability. For example, Paris Agreement. Tax incentives are always there for businesses that are adopting green practices. There are also penalties for the organizations that fails to meet the sustainability targets, and there is the collaboration between the government and industries to set the green policies. The pressure from international bodies to enforce compliance and reporting is also present. Now we have new management and leadership skills. First, the leader must be adaptable and forward thinking on sustainability. Skills are always in sustainable resource management, and these are very important. Leaders must drive the employee engagement on the green initiatives of the company. There must be strategic decision making which focus on balancing profit with sustainability. There must be need for eco literacy to manage environmental risk, and the cross functional collaboration skills must be there to integrate sustainability across the departments. Now we have new vision, strategic approach, and managing change. So we have to reframe the vision and mission to prioritize sustainability at the core. We must have a strategic plans that incorporate environmental, social, and governance factor, that is ESG. We must manage the resistance to change by building the sustainability champions. There must be the development of robust sustainability metrics and KPIs. The integrity of sustainability must be there into every business function from supply chain to marketing, and we have to communicate the benefit of sustainability to stakeholder and employees. Now we have the third assessment criteria in which we review the process of sustainable strategic business planning. So first we have to identify sustainable strategic option. We have to define long-term sustainability goals that align with company's vision. We must balance the financial returns with environmental and social responsibility. We must set the smart objectives, for example, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. We must focus on resource efficiency and reduce environmental impact. We must identify opportunities for innovation and sustainability, and we must link sustainable objectives to competitive advantage and market position. Now we have some financial return for sustainable objective, that is ESG. Also, you can see in the picture. We have to assess the cost saving from energy efficiency and waste reduction. We must identify new revenue streams from sustainable product or services. We must attract the govern investor and customers focused on ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance. We must have long-term profitability from building a resilient and responsible brand. We must reduce the risk by avoiding the future environmental penalties or regulations. And at last, we must have to improve the operational efficiency, which leads to better financial performance. Now we have to negotiate the agreement to sustainable objectives. We must align the key stakeholder on the importance of sustainability. We must use the data and case studies to demonstrate the value of the business of about different sustainable practices. We must collaborate with our shareholder, which helps to balance the profit with sustainability. We have to involve management, employees, and partners in sustainability planning, and we must establish the clear communication channels to ensure transparency. And at last, we have to build consensus on sustainable goals that benefit both the company and society. We also have to manage the conflict and make some sustainable strategic planning. To do this, we have to identify and address conflict between short term profit and long term sustainability goals. We must develop a flexible strategic plan that can adapt to evolve the sustainability needs. We must use some metrics to track the progress and measure the impact on sustainability objectives. Again, it is important to ensure that our leadership always drives the integration of sustainability into different strategies of the company, and we have to encourage cross functional collaboration to embed sustainability in all departments. And at last, it is important to regularly review and adjust the plan to resolve emerging conflict and seize the new opportunities. So, thank you so much. This is all about Unit 5 of the Level 6 Diploma in Business Management.